comes out, tackled by Randall. Spillage created. Chance for Vicky Wall. North get the opening goal.
All right, guys, we've got another season starting. The AFLW is on. I'm a bit of a novice, but for every novice, there's a nuffy out there. And there's no bigger nuffy for the AFLW than Admin 3 from Close to a Flag. Welcome back, sir. I need your brain about this. Look,
yes,
the girls are on.
You.
They're firing, and wowee, it is a lot different to seeing some other towns. Another one of our teams in blue and white, running around.
What I would say is if you're depressed about anything related to North Melbourne, just watch the AFLW. It'll make you feel so much better. They're so good. So look, basically, for those who don't know, the North Melbourne AFLW or women's program, just more broadly, is a very well-run organisation. So Darren Crocker, for those who know him from his heroics in many a grand final and his assistant coaching for the men's team, he's now the head coach of the women's side. And under him is some very capable women who have achieved some really good things in a very short period of time. So grand final last year where they lost to Brisbane by, I think it was 3 goals. They had a grand final rematch today and won by 44 points, which is a commanding victory. If you're looking for a men's equivalent, for those who aren't really all that clued in, I would probably say that's somewhere around like a 60, 70 point win. Like it's a lot, and that's big.
Yeah.
We also didn't have not most of our best 20, just best 20. That's a lie. We had a few key players out. Jenna Bruton is one of our sort of key players. She's a really sort of effective user of the ball, still recovering from a ruptured Achilles. But we had some really big standouts. It's a very exciting season coming through for the women's team. Not just because of today, but the VFLW team won the VFL Women's Premiership as well. First bit of silverware the club's won since the 99 grand final. So, look, there's a lot to be excited about for the women's program. It's all hopefully going to come through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, to explain a little bit about this little series we're going to do, I have been to 2 AFLW games last year, the prelim and the grand final. Went into it not knowing what to expect, had a great time. And we were sort of talking before, and I talked about this on the podcast when we did the season review. If you haven't listened to that one yet, please do. I want to make sure my interest in the AFLW is organic, and I would love to get into it, but I don't want to force myself to. And I think that's a really important thing as well. So we have genuine passion and interest and want for the girls to do more and more and more. So this series for me is going to be a little bit of a journey with yourself helping me along, with me getting into the AFLW even more. And I think there's going to be a lot of people out there who are similar to me who, like the AFLW, aren't fully into it, know a few players, but not heaps. So maybe if there are people like me out there who want to know more and want to get into it more, because you're right, I watched the game today and it was exciting football. Hopefully those people can sort of listen to this series and get into it along with me as well. So if you are one of those people, you're in the right place. You've joined at the right time. I'm a novice. You're a nuffy. This is the perfect thing, like we explained before. So look, just from my perspective today, to give you a couple of my thoughts, and I'll let you cut apart my opinions because you know what's right and wrong here. I've got a few notes that I wrote down about the game, and I might just read them out to you and let you know, and you can just tell me what you think. Yeah. So I knew a few players' names. The players going in were obviously Super Jazzy Garner, Emma. Is it Carney or Kearney? Because
Carney.
Carney, yes. Because I'm an Arsenal fan and I always want to say Kieran Tierney, but it comes out, but it's Emma Carney. And that's really it. There was Riddle as well.
Riddle,
yeah, and that they're probably the names I really knew most. But when the game kicked off, we had a pretty explosive sort of start, kicking the first goal. But it seemed like we put a lot of pressure on in maybe the first 10 minutes and had a lot of the ball, and were actually able to kick a goal. Then it switched back to Brisbane, and they dominated possession for a lot of the first quarter, but never capitalised. They felt like they maybe played better, or at least had a sustained period where they played so much better than us for majority of the quarter, but we were able to capitalise on goal. And I remember, because was this the same girl who got injured in the grand final? What was Craven?
Tess Craven, she played in the grand final. Jenna Bruton was the one that was injured.
She got injured.
So She didn't play today. That was the ruptured Achilles. But funny you do mention that, because the second quarter, I feel like Brisbane began to play it a little bit on their terms. They couldn't quite hit the scoreboard as well as they could. The player that really tore it up for us and really kind of undid it for us was Dakota Davidson. She's a very good contested mark, probably one of the best in the comp, really. You know,
she was the one that really kicked all their goals in the grand final and sort of put us behind, right?
Yeah, sort of broke it open in the last quarter, and they couldn't quite do it. She did have some impact, but the good thing is our backline, which, really had been outstanding, you know, a lot of last year, were able to stand up and sort of really defend that. And you're right, like with the players, obviously, Jazzy Garner, we are very lucky, I think, as North Melbourne to, I mean, quite literally, in my opinion, have the best female player in the league. She's absolutely incredible with her ball use, and her ability to also like sort of slow down play and look for options as well. I really think is so smooth, and has also been so consistent as well. A few other players really stood out to me. So Bella Eddy up forward, who, you know, sort of really has begun to, you know, she sort of did last year as well, but especially today with 2 goals in, you know, of course, AFLW is a lower scoring game. 2 goals is huge. That'd be the equivalent of, in the men's, you know, getting a bag of 4. And then young Neve Martin as well, one of our Irish players. So North has, you know, a fair few Irish players as well. Getting a couple too, I think was fantastic. But I think you're right. Like sort of watching a North team not hoof at 60 metres up from the back line is incredibly refreshing. They take risks, they look for options, they're creative with the way they use the footy, and I think that's really, you know, as a North fan, it's refreshing to see. It's also kind of strange to see as well. Yeah. And also us scoring 6 goals in a quarter to nothing is
unheard of unless we play Collingwood in the first half.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned, what's the Irish lady's name?
So there are a few.
She played rugby sevens, they were saying.
Yeah, Neve Martin. I believe it might have been rugby sevens. Yeah. Then
so they said she was away
O'Shea,
for like 7 seasons, or 7 months? Am I completely wrong with that? All I remember on the broadcast was she was away for a period of time trying to play rugby sevens for Ireland. Now she's come back. I got a note here. I said the Irish girl bullies people. Now She is that just Camzer, an Irish Camzer, huh? Because it kind of feels that way a little bit.
Was this Neve Martin or Erica O'Shea?
I don't. I have to see. Hang on. Once again, just for a disclaimer for everybody, this is me getting into it. And this is your guidance I need. She kicked a goal. She kicked a goal where she was lining up and then played on from that 35 and kicked it on the left.
That might have been Neve Martin, or but I believe it might have been.
It was Martin.
Yeah, but
hang on. Is it Neve? Sorry, this is fantastic podcasting for everybody. She was like bullying people and stuff. She was like tackling hard, or at the end of one of the quarters, she like tackled someone after the siren and started a biff.
Yeah. So I think that's the good thing is we see, you know, not just, I guess the thing is with North is like, you know, the men's team is a very, very young side. This is a women's team that's, you know, just coming into, you know, they're coming into their peak right now, and they're really kind of, you know, really, you know, getting in under the skin of other teams. And I think it is really refreshing to see, and it's really good and exciting to see as well. But you're right. Yeah, she absolutely did. I only caught bits and bobs of, you know, sort of when she really began to peak. But yeah, absolutely. One I want to talk about is the AFLW's Jai Simpkin, which is Ash Riddell. Again, a jawline that can cut glass, like Jai. But 31 disposals in a short format game needs to be studied with a goal on top of that.
Yeah, no, she was everywhere. So I've written her name down here as well. I just said Riddell was everywhere, and I think second half she started popping up a little bit more. Her game to me was her first half was almost like LDU who's not making crazy, not that she's not making an impact. I didn't realize how many touches she got in the first half, and she was getting around the footy so much. But I think her second half stood out to me a lot more, where every touch she got in the second half to me stood out a lot, and it really impacted us just crushing Brisbane.
Yeah.
And the first half, very, very solid. But I think there was more sort of handball and link up in play. And maybe her individual play wasn't standing out as much to me then. But the second half, geez, like once again, I did notice the jawline. And I mean, she's as chiseled as they come. But also, I can't believe how big of an impact she had during that run where we kicked 6 in a row. And she's just popping up all over the field. You're right. If Simpkin could kick like Riddell, we'd be fine.
Yeah. I think another thing to really mention as well is the North Melbourne midfield unit. Their women's midfield unit is just unparalleled. It is incredible. For use of a better word, like imagine 2 Tristan Sherrys, like in the rucks. You've got Kim Rennie and Emma King. We have ruck depth like you wouldn't believe. Like the fact they were 1 and 2 in terms of the top 2 for hitouts. The Brisbane rucks came 3rd and 4th. And we've also got, a number 3 in Liz McGrath, sort of there as well. But then you've got, the people around them like Agana, and you've also, I mean, obviously Jenna Bruton's obviously not in the side at the moment, but you've got Ash Riddell as well there too, and Emma Carney, of course, busting out through pack. She's a Ben Cunnington equivalent, if, you want to get clued in. But that sort of midfield unit, which is just so good with their ball use, but also just gets so much of it, eventually you are going to break through even the toughest defences if you were just dominating that much.
What I noticed as well was when Emma Carney kicks the ball, it feels she just has the form of like an AFL player as well. You can see how confidently she disposes of the ball. Like there's a couple of other girls in the team that, some of the handballs are a bit wayward, or like they'll go to kick it and they kick it like quite high, and you're like, okay, like the AFLW maybe a slight level below, but then there's these certain players like a Garner or a Riddell or Carney that they get the ball and they wouldn't look out of place. Like the form and the way they kick the footy is really clean and smooth. And I think just from my experience, and very limited experience, like watching them last year compared to this year, I felt like the game was quite scrappy last year, and it was a lot of hard work. Even though North were fantastic, it felt like harder work getting the ball forward. I know maybe we were just on fire today, but from what I saw compared to like the finals last year to this game, we look like we can move the ball quicker and cleaner than what I maybe saw from the AFLW as a whole, but definitely North Melbourne last year. Is that something you would agree with, or am I just tripping out here?
No, the stats also back it up too. Like I've actually just gotten the stats in terms of, a good indicator of an improved AFLW side is their ability to just control possession and also just get marks. And North Melbourne did that today, 57 marks to 39, which is absolutely for the scale of women's footy is absolutely incredible. Uncontested possessions, 143 to 104, which also kind of just shows the impact of those standout players like Ash Riddell. You take out her possessions, North loses in uncontested. Like just getting the ball into a position where they can actually move it, which is in those uncontested passages of play, shows how kind of clean they are with it. And then disposal efficiency as well, 67%, which is not going to be, as good as the men's, but it still is very, very good, by any standard of the AFLW's game. So, they're just a lot more composed. It just moves with a lot more ease, and you're right. Like, it's less disposals, to get to goal, and it doesn't feel like it's as much effort.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Who's our main ruckman?
Emma King would be our main ruck. But like I said, we've also got, like today we had Kim Rennie in the ruck as well. So it's a really good sort of 1-2 punch. We do have a lot of height in the team, which is really good to see.
I'm thinking, and maybe Close to a Flag can get behind this, I think we need a campaign, even just one game, to get her in a helmet. I think we need a duo of North Melbourne ruckmen with helmets on, because she was quite good today and really competed well in the ruck. But I don't know how I feel watching a game and that my ruckman doesn't have a helmet on. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me scared, and I don't know what I'm watching. It makes me feel unsafe.
Yeah, look, it is a different game. I'll put it that way. But look, helmet or no helmet, I would be all for it, potentially doing it, even if it's just a photo op, that could be good fun. But look, if there's one thing that North Melbourne seems to do right, no matter how good or bad we play, and no matter what team it is, for some reason it's getting good rucks. And we've done a pretty good job in the AFLW program as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another player, and I wrote down her number here, number 33. I'm just trying to remember who that player is.
Kate Sherlaw.
Yeah, taller forward.
Yes.
I really liked a couple of moments from her where I think it was our second and our third goal. She put a shepherd on for for our second goal, and I barely see shepherds in the AFL anymore. No one wants to shepherd. Everyone just wants to like run into space and not back their teammate up to receive the ball instead of shepherd. And I thought that was really good because she shepherded exactly where she needed to and blocked the player in such a way that whoever the girl was that kicked that goal, she had space and she could actually execute a proper kick. And then there was the third goal we kicked where the ball hit the ground and she was able to take possession. It wasn't really an overlapping handball, but she was able to fire out clean hands at the right time. And the girl who kicked the goal didn't break stride or anything. So she seems like a really smart player, even though if she, sometimes a taller player I know in the AFL can be a bit of a bonehead sometimes, or they're not seen as quite as skillful. But she competed well in the air. It came to ground, and when it hit the ground, she seemed to be able to have a lot of footy smarts to know when to shepherd, when to get the handball off, and set her teammates up in a lot of good positions.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right with. Number 33, like she, being also 182 centimetres does help. She's also a bit older as well, has seen a little bit more footy at the age so she's 35, and she's seen, a bit more footy as well compared to, some of other players. But just having that sort of more mature head as well, I think really helps, and being able to kind of, have a bit of a team first mentality. Because I do feel like in both, and I see this a lot in the men's game, and I don't really know if I see it as much in the women's game. It hasn't been around enough to, maybe see it. But especially when they get scouted, there's a lot of me time that's promoted, and it's a very hard thing to unlearn. So things like shepherds and, trying to not necessarily go for glory and do the team thing is not really seen as much. And those mature players maybe haven't grown up in that environment where, it's just about getting scouted and it's just about making yourself stand out. So I think that's one thing that maybe sort of separates sort of a more mature head, even if they haven't, because a lot of the AFLW players haven't played footy for their whole lives. They've only picked it up lately, especially the older players. But even then, not having been brought up in the system, they kind of know that, and they kind of don't really think in the context of what's going to get me scouted. They think of what's going to help the team win. So I think that sort of IQ, it's not just footy IQ, but it's just sort of team sport IQ, I think is really, really beneficial.
So here's a question for you. Let's go through each line of the team, defence, midfield, forward, and maybe we'll pick a player. You can tell me a player for everyone out there who doesn't know many names and numbers and things like that. Let's find a player on each line of the field for someone who's getting into the AFLW to look out for. Someone they can be like, oh yeah, I can see them playing every week. Oh yeah, I saw them kick 2 last week. Oh, there's that girl that did that last week. Who are your go-tos? I know our defence is quite strong. So in defence, who's someone you'd be looking out for every week and want to get behind? Who's our Charlie Comben down there?
Oh, you've got 2. We've actually got 2. So we got Libby Birch, who just came from the Western Bulldogs. She's one of the real pioneer players, very experienced, and has basically been there since season 1. And also Jazz Ferguson as well, who is an incredibly strong defender. So absolute brick wall. Those would be the 2. It's one of the few positions where I would actually give you just 2 positions. In the middle, I've got, of course, Jazzy Garner in the centre, who is absolutely a massive, massive standout for the team. Emma Carney plays off half-back, but she's also one of those players that can be in the contest and be on ball and be a really good sort of contested player. So, yeah, Carney and Jazz Garner, obviously. Garner's probably maybe a little bit more, for use of a better word, a household name in AFLW, but definitely one of those ones that you can always rely on to know what to do with the footy. Now, with regards to our forward line, obviously we've got Bella Eddy, who, North Coastal flag. We've got a bit of bias because she was one of the first players from the W team to give us a follow, but very reliable shot on goal. Also as well, Talia Randall up forward, who has always kind of been one to whether it's a win or lose, we'll always get those couple of goals to either keep us in it or, maybe put the game beyond reach. She's one of those ones that are really, really reliable. Honourable mention to Taylor Gatt as well, with some pretty good speed. And again, also one of those players who is a bit younger, has come through like the scouting system and the talent system, but has, really managed to stand out in a very short period of time. So again, the common theme is going to be that they've either been there since day dot or they've just gotten here. But those would be the names I would say to really sort of look out for.
I tell you, I think the person who stood out to me the most, I guess because especially in the first half, and when I looked at the stats after the game, I couldn't believe it, was Craven. I couldn't believe that she only ended with very minimal disposal. It was like 10 disposals. I'll try and find it here. I couldn't believe it because I felt like she was everywhere. But 10 disposals and all kicks. But I felt like every time she was around the ball, she used it very cleanly and very well. First half, I would have nearly been like, I think she might be nearly best on for us. And I know, the bigger names are maybe standing out a little bit more, but she really impressed me, especially first quarter and into the first half. I don't know. I felt like she was really quick and buzzy around the packs. When she got the ball, she could handball where it needed to be, or at least execute a kick and that sort of stuff. Yep. So what sort of player is she? She looked like she was on the wing most of the time. What sort of player is she? Because she really, as a novice myself, she really stood out to me.
She is one of those players who I am trying to come up with maybe an analogue for. I'm trying to come up with an analogue. She's a real bellwether player.
Sean Alley type, maybe.
Yeah, well, when the team's doing well, when she's doing well, the team does well. It's kind of like when, for you, I'm trying to think of a player like maybe Will Phillips, where not necessarily in play style, but when the team's doing well,
when it's humming, she's on fire.
You're like, hang on, Will Phillips is doing really good.
How did Will Phillips end with 25 disposals?
Yeah, exactly. You sort of really notice it. And I think Tess is one of those players that maybe goes a little bit underappreciated. She's not one of those ones who maybe gets the media time and gets the airtime that, say, like Jazzy Garner or Jenna Bruton or even Libby Birch may get. But you're right. She's so impactful when she does get the footy. And like today, a lot of what her disposals were kicks. And as a result, just more impactful, and she gets much more influence on the game than maybe she gets credit for. So no, I do think she's very slept on as a player, and one to really keep an eye on if you're sort of new to the game.
Yeah, I don't know. She just popped up in areas, and was probably the first player today when I was watching that I was like, she's got a bit of talent about her. I don't know. She knows what to do with the football. Isn't afraid to put her head over it a little bit, and it's just one of those standouts. And I think they're the ones for myself who are trying to get into the game. I think it's important to point out anyone who is a little bit eye catching. And I guess it is crazy that. Yeah, I felt like she had so many more disposals in the game. 10 of the best, a Cyril-like performance. 10 of the best disposals you'll ever see. I think Sherlaw as well stood out to me a lot. I've already sort of pointed her out with a couple of efforts in the for the second and a third goal. But I think she seems like a good focal point, and I think AFLW. And this is going to lead on to my next question. AFLW is a much more maybe old school version of football, where it is a little bit more contested. It is a little bit more match-up and one-on-one based. So if someone like me is looking to get into the AFLW more, we've been to a couple of games, what are the things in the sport as a whole, or maybe that are more likened to our team in particular, that you'll be watching for? Is it our ball movement? Is it our fierceness in the contest? Or have we got tall forwards or with marking ability? What is something you would point out to a couple of newbies who are trying to spot specific things in the game to really get into it?
I think the big thing to notice from North Melbourne, also just in the women's game, but I think something that North Melbourne women's does really well is scoring goals from open play. And that means not just relying on a couple of key forwards. You'll notice it today, everyone's getting in for a shot on goal. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 goal scorers in a team that scored 12. It's one of those things where everyone can get forward. And so I would say it's scoring goals from open play, but also just our ability to get so much of the footy out of the centre that even if, and this is, obviously AFLW is still, the ball skills are still constantly sort of, trying to catch up to where the men's are. But that being said, they're getting so much of the footy that eventually it just ends up getting like that something will be effective and something will go through for a goal. And now combine that with the fact that we are getting very, very good at it relative to the rest of the comp, and just in general, like the skill levels improved, it's resulting in just everyone having a shot on goal. So I would say there's a lot of forward depth, but also our mids and wingers can also get forward and get a few goals too. So when we get the ball, we know what to do with it, and we also know how to score goals, which is very simple.
Well, yeah. I'm not used to that in the blue and white stripes, mate, knowing how to score goals a lot of the time. Like you said before, I mean, I was going to say there's a little bit of orange tsunami about how we play. I feel like the amount of players running forward when we got possession of the ball was crazy compared to maybe the men's team, which ends up sort of putting it on Larky's head 25 metres out, but then it's turned over. So it's good that they're running at a team, but I guess that's confidence as well, right? So, I think it was really evident maybe – how we're buzzing around packs. We were always putting pressure on, and then it's the flood forward. Even the midfielders pushing into the forward line to, get shots at goal or put pressure on or not let it back out straight away. So I think that's something that I definitely noticed from my limited experience.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, because with the men's team, it's like if you take out Larky, we're in trouble, right? If you take out
Teakle, mate, my guy.
Yeah. I mean, with the addition of a Teakle or Zerha when he's on, we do have some depth. But you take out one player from the women's team, you take out like a Schiller, or you take out like Randall, for example. You've got 4 or 5 other players that can score goals and do routinely. So it's the fact that we have so many players that can kick goals and do. There's just an insane amount of depth, but also versatility among positions as well. Is that kind of, for use of a better word, anyone can play anywhere in the North women's team. And probably to add on, actually, that's probably something that you'll notice a lot more, is you'll just find players can just do a lot more of everything. They're a lot more well-rounded, and they can just, they're just a lot more reliable in positions where maybe they probably shouldn't be.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it definitely does seem like more of a unit, and everyone's on the same page, or everyone's at a similar maybe ability or desire to get the footy. And it does feel like much more, and it is because the skill level is slightly lower, but it causes more of a contest. But then you get more teamwork around the ball to either hold it in or get that ball out and run with it together. And I think that's the thing I enjoyed about it, was the hunt for the ball. I mean, we all like a physical game, and we could rant for days about how the AFL, has gone softer, or it's not as physical, or you can't tackle. It doesn't really feel like that in the AFLW. And like we all know, it isn't the quality of the AFL, but it doesn't mean that it's not like an appealing type of game to watch, and almost maybe a contrast for people. If you are looking for something different, it does give you a little bit of that old school one-on-one contested football a little bit more. But then you've got the flooding forward, which is part of the modern game. So I found it a nice balance. It wasn't just scrappy how I felt like it may have been in the prelims and stuff, in the prelim and maybe the grand final, which I watched. I found it a lot more free flowing. And the skills were on display a lot more. And once again, it might just have been because of the day and just having a great day at the office, but I guess we'll see. We've got the Cats at Arden Street next Sunday, I think.
Yeah, we do.
I might try and get along to that one. Are the Cats a dangerous team, or is that someone we should be taking care of?
They're someone we should definitely take care of. Last year, we, pretty comprehensively took them to the cleaners. We historically have done very well against them. They're a team that we do tend to play well against. Arden Street, and that's another thing about the AFLW for those who maybe aren't as clued in, we play at local grounds as well. But Arden Street has always been a very happy hunting ground for the North women's team. We do well at home. They are a team which I would expect us to beat, and beat quite comprehensively. Again, the Brisbane Lions team are the team that beat us in a grand final. They're the premiers, and we smacked them by 40 points. So
you're saying
for
grand
me,
final lock right now?
Oh, absolutely.
Give us the cup.
But look, well, the thing is, my expectations for this women's team this year is like this team should be, and I'm sure their eyes are on the premiership. They should be in a grand final. And that's weird for me to say as a North fan, but this team is so far. They're so far ahead of the Lions today that it should be the expectation. But with Geelong as well, they're a team that's definitely developing, and they've had some decent talent come through the ranks previously. But I do think that they're sort of kind of a middle of the road team that they might be a bit plucky, but I do think we should be able to take care of them pretty comprehensively.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, look, we've only got a couple of minutes left on the chat, so we'll wind it up in a second. I think it's a really good first episode for me, sort of trying to get into it. Maybe every like once a month or something like that, we'll reconvene on Zoom and we'll chat about it. If everyone listening, sort of gets involved with the women's team and sits down and watches even a half, and then maybe you watch 3/4 the next week and then the full game, and then you sort of get into it, that'd be fantastic. So, look, we're really trying to make sure I cover the AFLW a little bit more. I'm glad I'm sort of getting involved with it as well, and obviously appreciate your extensive knowledge on the women's game, because hopefully it helps me get into it even more and helps so many other people out there get into it as well. You're like a pioneer, mate. You're the Marnie Cohen of the AFLW.
Yeah, mate, pop me on besties. That'll be good. Wow. But. Yeah, no, it's a really exciting. It's exciting and it's really fun and it's really enjoyable. Game day as well. It's cheap. It's like $15-20 to get in, and
it's a cool atmosphere too. Like when we went down to Carlton's training ground, Princess Park, like it was old school. There was like a hot dog stand, and walking around the stadium, it just looks super old school. And you sit in these stands, and you're like, it's a good mix. It doesn't feel like local footy. It feels above that, but it also makes you more grounded. It's not like sitting in tier 4 of the MCG. You're close to the game. Yeah. You can still hear the hits. You can hear them yelling, and it's fun. It really is good. So, look, like we said, hopefully it can encourage a few people to get along and get into it, and hopefully everyone's along for the journey of me becoming, a novice to a nuffy with the AFLW. So. Look, that's enough knowledge for me for one day, mate. You've told me the players I need to follow. I've said Craven is the person I'm watching out for. I forgot number 33's name, but I'll remember her name eventually. Kershaw, is that the one?
I believe.
Pretty sure I'm right.
Sorry, I have absolutely blanked. But I'm still, again, I'm an Uffie, but I am still,
we're all learning. These podcasts are going to be a little bit more raw as well. So let's just put that out as a disclaimer. We're learning, and especially me, like, you know so much more than I know about this. So these podcasts aren't going to be quite as polished as the ones that we both have a lot of knowledge about. But I think that's what the aim of this is try and get people to, don't be afraid to be like, I don't know who that is. Or don't be afraid to be like, oh, I'm not crazy into it yet, but I'm trying and I'm learning, and, we're all going to go along for the ride. So I think that's what this series is all about. And I hope, if I get any names wrong or anything, people understand I'm learning and everyone else is going to come along for the journey as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So really exciting stuff, and honestly, get around them. Give it a chance is all I would say. Give it a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go, have a day in the sun. That's the best way I can describe AFLW.
I can get a tan, and if I can get a tan,
exactly,
everyone else can get a tan.
Let's hope for the rest
of the SPF 1000 or something like that. Just please. I did get nervous actually when we went to the grand final. If you remember, we were sitting just out of the sunlight, and then as the game went on, the sun was going down and the sun was creeping up closer to my face, and I was getting really worried that it'd go to overtime or something and I'd start getting burnt.
Yeah, I was worried because, I've never seen someone sweat so much in the shade. But,
well, look, get used to it, mate. If we attend a few AFLW games, you'll get very used to that.
Yeah. Oh, good man. But really keen for the season and really keen to do this as well. This would be really fun.
Absolutely. Everyone get down to Arden Street next Sunday. North Cats will absolutely smash them. If I'm going to be down there, and maybe yourself as well, we'll let everybody know and they can come and say hello if we're all down there. And look, maybe we'll find a corner of the ground to do a mini Bay 29 at the AFLW.
Beautiful. Maybe some kangas.
Oh, I heard one on the broadcast today. They were kangaroing at the game. It was unbelievable.
Fantastic. Good. Still being carried. We love to see it.
We're massive, mate. We're massive. All right, let's hang up the boots here. We'll be back, next month or so with another AFLW update, and I'm going to be a complete nut job for the AFLW by then. So thank you for joining me, and we'll chat AFLW very soon.
That's good, thank you.